Senator Bernie Sanders is live with us now from Burlington, Vermont. Sanders.senate.gov, his website. Senator, welcome back.
Great to be with you, Tom.
Great to have you with us. Your thoughts on the news of the day?
Well, what I would like to do today, Tom, is maybe something that we haven't done in the past, and I'd like to get our listening audience involved in the discussion. You know, I just got back from D.C. to Vermont last night, and it just, as soon as you walk back into Vermont, the world is so very different than it is in Washington, D.C., especially with media. And I keep getting the feeling that what media in Washington, D.C. is about is putting more emphasis on issues that ordinary Americans don't care about, and less emphasis on issues that ordinary people do care about. I gave just a funny experience. I could not walk down the streets, the hallways of the Capitol this last week without somebody asking about Hillary Clinton and her emails. Hillary Clinton and her emails. Hillary Clinton and her emails. And I call up Vermont and talk to the front desk people in Washington, D.C. at my office. I was like, well, how many calls are we getting? And virtually none. I think we got less than 5 calls. And that's all that the Washington, D.C. media can talk about. Now, I don't want to get into the pros or the minuses of Hillary's emails, but in my view, it is not one of the great issues facing this country. Meanwhile, we have the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, and the last study that I saw on this is the largest trade agreement in the history of the United States. And do you know how much attention the major television networks have paid to it?
Zero.
Not one word.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton, 24/7. Trade agreement, zero. Last year, a couple of us in the Senate wrote to the presidents of the major networks, and we said, a study says you're hardly talking about climate change at all. Scientific community tells us climate change is the major environmental crisis facing the planet. The Earth could be 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer by the end of the century. Calamitous impact. You don't talk about it. How does that happen? Just yesterday in Washington in the morning, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and I did an event with the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. They presented us with 2 million signatures saying to Congress, do not cut Social Security. 2 million people. Do you know how much attention that got? Virtually.
I'm assuming nothing.
Virtually none.
Yeah.
Virtually none. Citizens United, this disastrous Supreme Court decision, which is allowing the Koch brothers and other billionaires to buy the American political process. Almost no discussion on television at all. So the issue to me is not so much, whether what people say on TV is right or wrong or left or right or whatever it may be. It is what do these guys inside the Beltway consider to be important? Why is Hillary's emails more important than the most significant trade agreement in American history, which, in my view, will continue the process of allowing companies to shut down plants in America and move abroad? I may have been wrong on that issue, but why is, whatever your view on it, why is Hillary's emails more important? And it goes on and on. So you have all kinds of political gossip, who's raising money, who's doing this, who's doing that, and yet we run away from the issues that impact ordinary people. See that polling out there that tells us, what do the American people want? They want to see millions of jobs being created. Well, people have honest disagreements, maybe the best way to do it, but shouldn't we be focusing on how do you create the millions of jobs that this country needs? How do you raise the wages that so many millions of working people need? What are the best ways to do that? How do you deal with income and wealth inequality? Is it important to recognize that the top 0.1% in America now own more wealth than almost the bottom 90%? Is that important? I think it is. Somebody may disagree with me. Should we be talking about that issue? Today, over 99% of all new income in the last few years has gone to the top 1%. Is that significant? From a moral issue, from an I know you were, before we went on the air, you had some comments from the Pope. Pope Francis talks about this all the time.
Yep.
Does American media talk about it? Does Congress talk about it? Is that an important issue? So what interests me, and I'd love to hear from the listeners about this, does corporate media address the real issues that are on people's mind. And my impression is that most people are concerned about how are we going to create jobs in a country that pay people a living wage? How do you provide health care at a cost that is affordable? How do we make education, higher education, graduate school education affordable? How do we deal with student debt? Who has power in this country? Are we losing our democracy to the Koch brothers and other billionaires who are now able to invest as much money as they want in the political process? Is that a significant issue? Am I the only person in America who thinks that's an important issue? I don't think so.
Yeah. So the question for our listeners to answer, if they call in and just want to give us a quick, is what do you think are the most important issues facing this country that the media is not covering?
Good. I mean, that's fair enough. Or does the media? I mean, you can twist it any way you want. Is it, when you wake up in the morning and you talk about issues, that's what's on top? I mean, was it last week that some plane at LaGuardia went off the runway?
Right. It was all plane porn all day. I mean, disaster porn is all they do on the.
I guess it was, it's obviously not a good situation, but I don't believe people I don't even know, were people injured in that or?
No. Well, I think there was one person who was mildly injured.
So it's an issue. I mean, is that really more important than trade policy, which could result in the loss of God knows how many hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs?
Right, and the destruction of American families.
Right. I mean, who makes these decisions?
Yeah.
That those are more important issues. So, what I believe, and what I worry about a whole lot, is, you got a whole lot of folks out there who do not know much about where political consciousness is very, very low. There was a poll just about a year ago, I think. 63% of the American people could not name which political party controlled the House or the Senate. Mm. I can tell you right now, as the ranking member of the Budget Committee, I doubt very much that people know what the Republican budget is going to look like. And I will tell you what it's going to look like. It'll be, in all likelihood, major cuts in Medicare, Medicaid, education, food stamps, nutrition programs, affordable housing, and more tax breaks for the rich and large corporations. Think that'll be reported a whole lot?
Yeah.
Probably not. So, it's hard in a democracy. I do, and I hope everybody understands that people have different ideas. That's called democracy, and I don't claim to know it all. And we have to listen to other people. We have to debate the issues. But I fear very much that we are no longer having that conversation and that debate on the important issues facing America because of a corporate media which is much more interested in political gossip and, making it clear that Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Thom Hartmann, nobody is perfect. So let's attack them.
Yeah.
All right. And, we need to force that debate. That's what we need to do.
Yeah. This town so much reminds me of bad high school cliques. I'm serious. I was never a member of a fraternity in college, but I can imagine that it must be like that. I mean, it's who's the bad boy or girl this week?
And then the herd mentality of everybody asking the same question on the same day. It's like a joke.
Yeah, it's amazing. So the question...
I was criticized. One guy criticized me for not taking a whack at Hillary. I lost this great opportunity.
Right.
The point is, obviously, I think Hillary Clinton and I, if I decide to run for president, she decides, we'll have very serious disagreements. Let's debate them. But, you don't need to take whacks at people, to get involved in petty politics.
Yeah, that's what's wrong with American politics.
Yeah.
Okay, Senator Sanders is with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here, the third hour of our program. We are live. Senator Sanders is on the line with us, and he's asking your thoughts on whether the media is committing malpractice, essentially. Is the media telling all of us the stories that we really need to know about, the information that we need to run as a democracy, or not? Give us a call.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And be sure to check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov, and you can also find all kinds of activity over on Facebook on the Bernie Sanders page and his Twitter account. And welcome back. 15 minutes past the hour. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. Rafiq in Humboldt, Texas, watching Free Speech TV on the Direct TV satellite. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
And to Senator Sanders' question, yes, it's in the media's best interest, or whoever's controlling the media, to not only to keep the people dumbed down, but, just to keep them preoccupied with the nonsense that they are showing, so that it's just a matter of divide and conquer, because as long as we're distracted by the nonsense that they're presenting, we're not going to be focused on what they're doing in Congress or with our government.
Well, thank you very much for that thought. I use the word deflect attention, and I think that is a very important part of this whole thing. And what bothers me is I think if we can engage the American people, they will find these issues to be of enormous interest. Start thinking about how do you create a trade policy that creates jobs in America rather than sends our jobs to China? How do you deal with income and wealth inequality? How do you create the 15 million jobs that we desperately need at decent wages? How do you raise wages? How do you make college affordable? Those aren't easy questions. Mm-hmm. And we need serious debate on it and the ideas of the American people. But I think these are the ideas that people are concerned about. And I think our caller was exactly right. To a large degree, politics becomes entertainment, and there is a huge deflection of attention away from the important issues.
Yeah. Jim in Lockport, Illinois, watching Free Speech TV on DirecTV. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, how are you this afternoon?
Great.
I actually have to agree with the caller. It's a divide and conquer. One of the things I was going to ask you is, our politics have become more of a game of football. Whose side wins and whose side loses. And it's the American people that lose in the process. They're not listening to our needs, like 90% of the public wanting background checks on guns, or 70% of the public wanting something else. It's just a question of who wins and who looks stronger and who looks weaker. They're just not getting down to the issues that this country needs. It's sad, Senator Sanders. It really is.
Well, Jim, thank you very much. And I think you hit it right on the nail. It is like a football game. If people are interested in football, the sports analysts will tell us that the left tackle for the New England Patriots was hurt in practice, won't play, and that will have an impact on the game. Or Tom Brady has the flu. And it is that game. How are the campaigns doing? Who is raising money? What's the polling? Rather than saying these are the views of the candidates on the issues, or they're not addressing these issues. So I think Jim in Illinois is exactly right. They see it as a game, but you know what? Politics is not a game. Who wins the Super Bowl, who wins the World Series, that's important for a day or two. It's interesting. But it doesn't impact the lives of millions and millions of people, and politics does. And anyone out there who thinks that politics is not important, you ask yourself why the Koch brothers are prepared to spend almost $1 billion to buy the United States Congress. They think it's important.
Yeah, they got it. Senator Bernie Sanders with us, taking your calls on our Brunch with Bernie hour, live on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be right back. It's 20 minutes past 2 in the afternoon on the East Coast of the United States. We'll be back with your calls for Senator Sanders right after this. 20 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us, taking your calls in our Brunch with Bernie hour, the third hour of our program today. A little late for brunch, I guess, but lunch with Bernie. I don't. Mary in Albuquerque, New Mexico, listening on KABQ. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I would like to know, when is this TPP going to come up? Is it going to be fast-tracked? Will there be most favored nations? I worked on NAFTA and WTO GATT. WTO GATT, terrible. And didn't that encompass the entire globe, all countries? Why do we need the TPP? It takes away American jobs.
Well, Mary, you've asked a lot of good questions. Let me just say this. The TPP will be the largest trade agreement in the history of the country. It will encompass what NAFTA did and add to that. And the fears of the TPP is that it goes beyond NAFTA in other trade agreements in a number of respects. So it is not just forcing American workers to compete against people in Vietnam who earn 56 cents an hour as a minimum wage, but it also will give a green light to the drug companies to force poor countries around the world to pay higher prices for prescription drugs. It will allow corporations to sue the U.S. government and state governments for encouraging Buy America campaigns or for passing environmental laws that these companies think will impact their profits. Just as an example to that, one of the proponents of the Keystone Pipeline agreement suggested that if Congress turns it down, the Canadians could go to an international trade organization and win passage because they feel that the United States Congress violated trade agreements. So it takes away a lot of sovereignty from the federal government, the U.S. federal government, and state government. So I think it's a bad agreement for a wide number of issues. I do believe it will be, we think, we don't know, it's being debated in committee, that it will get out of the Finance Committee and get to the floor probably within the next month.
You know, that loss of sovereignty argument is the traditional Republican argument against the UN. Why aren't the Republicans concerned about sovereignty with TPP?
Well, because, you know, big money interests are very supportive of the TPP. You have virtually every major corporation in Wall Street who like this idea very, very much. Essentially what it does, you know, it's funny getting back to the Pope, and I don't know how many people listened to what you said before the show went on the air. But the Pope talks about the primacy of money in the world over the needs of human beings. And this is the primacy of corporations over the needs of human beings. So what the TPP is about is saying that, let's say a country wants to regulate the impact of Wall Street or financial institutions. Well, that's detrimental to the corporations, and we can't have that, even if it's good for the people. So corporations will be able to sue any government around the world that tries to limit what financial institutions can do, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, that's where
it's amazing stuff when you think about it. Robert in Corona Del Mar, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, Senator Sanders and Tom. Pleasure to speak with both of you. I just thought I would share some thoughts on the corporate media, and I really see this as being one of the greatest problems we face, because if we can't inform our electorate, what chance do we have of making educated voting decisions? And when money interests are as powerful as they are in politics, in business, I guess it's very easy for them to control the conversation. And unfortunately, we live in a nation of rather easily amused individuals who would just as soon know what Kim Kardashian is up to than any sort of trade agreement or, real significant issues. And furthermore, when the message being driven is false, then those that are even receiving it are being misinformed. And I hear it in this rather very, conservative area of Orange County, California. I hear it all the time. Just the denial of climate change, this notion that, to have food stamp programs is someone taking my money. Mm-hmm. It's really remarkable. I'm a 52-year-old white male, tail end of the baby boomers, and I'm truly ashamed of my generation and what we've allowed to happen.
Well, Robert, thanks very much for your thoughts, and I think you say a lot of truth there. And as a nation, again, we should and can be having vigorous debates. People have honest difference of opinion on the issues, but climate change is a pretty good example of that. The scientific community is virtually unanimous that climate change is real, it's caused by human activity, and it's already causing devastating problems and those problems will only get worse in years to come. And yet, you're right. There are millions of people out there who, if they watch Fox TV or so forth, or get influenced by the energy companies, don't know that simple fact. So, thank you for your thoughts, Robert.
Yeah, we have 30 seconds, Senator.
All right. I want to stay on this issue because I think Robert talks about how if you don't have an electorate which is informed about the important issues facing them, how do we make good political decisions? And again, people are entitled to different points of view. But if we don't know what's going on, if we're not discussing the most important issues, then we get hung up on all kinds of other things rather than the issues that impact our lives. And so I think Robert's point is right on.
Yeah, this extraordinary Reagan stopping the enforcement of the Sherman Act, leading to this just a small handful of very wealthy companies and families owning virtually all of our media is just breathtaking.
Yeah.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us. We'll be back with your calls for the senator after the news here at the bottom of the hour, so stick around, please. You can check out his website at sanders.senate.gov, and he's got a very active Facebook page and, of course, Twitter at Senator Sanders. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
And at sanders.senate.gov, you can also sign up for Bernie's newsletter. It's called the Bernie Buzz, and it is great. It's a great news source, sanders.senate.gov. Minutes before the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us today. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour and our third hour. We are live. It's the third hour of our program. And, Senator, you're still with us?
I'm right here.
Okay, great. Let's pick up some more phone calls here. Sally in Rancho Cucamonga, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, Senator Sanders. I absolutely agree that mainstream press doesn't report on the issues that we, the people, should have a right to know about, which is why we so badly need more honest public interest stations like Free Speech TV in the main stream, but I don't know how we really do that. However, my question to you today is regarding the upcoming presidential election. I'm not asking you that question that everybody asks you. What I want to ask you is if you are aware or have you heard about what I think I heard on MSNBC a few days ago, who said that Hillary, I think maybe one of her staff, said that she was considering not running in the primary, a no primary plan. And I don't understand. That seems to defeat the purpose of having other people, like possibly you or someone else, that have different ideas to be discussing in the primary that the people can hear.
Sally, I don't understand that. I did not hear that, and I don't understand that at all. If you don't run in the primaries, you don't get the delegates you need to go to get the nomination.
But she seems to be in a position maybe that she doesn't need to run in the primary.
No. I don't see how that's possible. Yeah. I mean, in the primaries, the state primaries that elect delegates that end up determining who the Democratic or Republican nominee is. So I'm not, Tom, am I missing something here? Or?
Not to the best of my knowledge. I mean, typically, well, like in the last election when President Obama ran without a primary, the state parties still had to cast votes for him.
Right.
So
it may not have been a contested primary, but
right.
Yeah,
but it was essentially.
I just don't understand how that would be possible.
Okay, Matt in Kalamazoo, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate both of you enlightening us. I think we all know as progressive what the issues that should be covered in the media are: social and economic inequality, health care, the climate change. Basically, I get my news from listening to you and comedians like Bill Maher and Jon Stewart. They cover what the media should be covering. But the reason they don't, the mainstream media doesn't, is because of the lax enforcement of the fairness doctrine.
Well, there is no more fairness doctrine anymore, Matt. Reagan did away with it in 1987.
Actually, Carter started it, and then it accelerated under Reagan with a guy who compared a TV to a toaster or something, and TV didn't involve any more regulation than a toaster, and so it became optional to get an FCC license to have a news channel, and I think content began to be less monitored for fairness, and you had more media outlets coming into the hands of fewer people, and it's become more opinion than news. And that's, it's very hard I'd like to give just the average Joe a break because I'm kind of lucky. I'm employed. I'm able to afford satellite radio. It's very hard for people who are working multiple jobs to stay informed. I get as upset and frustrated with the general public's lack of interest in issues like what's happened to the FCC and the Fairness Doctrine, and but I can't blame them.
So let's get Bernie's thoughts on this.
You raise,
Senator,
a lot of good points, and I think in one way or another. I mean, here's the dilemma. We all, most of us, I hope, believe in the First Amendment, freedom of speech, but we also do not believe that big money should be able to be the only voices with the freedom to speak, and give us an analysis and presentations which favor the wealthy and avoid discussion of the important issues facing working families. Let me just give you just another example, a reiterator point. I mean, every place I go, overwhelming opposition to cuts in Social Security. In 3 out of the 4 hearings that the Senate Budget Committee have held, Republicans have brought forth witnesses who want to cut Social Security. Just the other day, we had representatives of the Business Roundtable, whose average CEO will earn $88,000 a month in retirement benefits as part of their retirement package. And they come into Congress and they say you should cut Social Security, where the average American receives $14,000 a year, $1,200 a month. So guys making $88,000 a month telling people who are earning $1,200 a month, we're going to cut your Social Security. Does anybody in America think that makes sense? I don't think so. Does that kind of issue get the discussion that it needs? Overwhelming majority of the American people say do not cut Social Security. In fact, they say expand Social Security. But, Matt raises the question of how do you do this legally? It's not our job to deny people the right to speak. We think everybody has the right to voice their views. But we think that it is wrong when a few corporations can control the level of discussion and what is talked about.
Yeah. Paul in South Lyon, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yeah, Hillary's emails are proof the media does what they're hired to do, smear Democrats. Senator, I saw your brilliant speech to the National Press Club. You mentioned the 3 forces in politics, Democrats, Republicans, and the Koch brothers. And I think it's misleading to say it that way when the entire Republican Party does the bidding of the Koch brothers. Keystone, low taxes, no regulation of polluters. Do you know of any Democrat who gets millions of dollars from the Koch brothers?
No, I don't. And, Paul, that's a fair statement. What I meant to say by that, and what is true, is that you have 2 major political parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, that in various ways have millions of people participating. A whole lot of people make contributions to both of those parties. And the Koch political party, which is controlled by the second wealthiest family in the country, worth about $100 billion, obviously supporting Republican candidates. We'll have an organization, we think, in a couple of years, according to the media, that is stronger than either of the 2 political parties in terms of the amount of money they can spend, in terms of the databases that they have. There was an article in a paper recently talking about how the Koch brothers themselves will have information on well over 100 million Americans in terms of their, political tendencies and so forth, which is stronger than what the Republican National Committee has. That was my point. Obviously, the Koch brothers are supportive of the Republican agenda and of Republican candidates, but it is an interesting point to make, that they are themselves independently more powerful than either the Democratic or Republican parties. And the question that I ask and ask now, when you have one family with more power than either of the major political parties and an extreme right-wing agenda wanting to abolish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, more tax breaks for the rich, what form of politics do we do in America? Is that really what democracy is about, or is that what oligarchy is about? And I think we have to have the courage to say, honestly, that we are moving toward an oligarchic form of government where the political system will be controlled by a few billionaire families.
Norma in Montgomery, Alabama. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. Thanks for taking me. No, I don't believe the media covers anything. Your speech was great. It was not carried on CNN. It was not carried on Fox. There is nothing being carried about the TPP. I spent the morning calling every representative I can come up with because I don't want to eat radiated fish. Will we know whether or not we're getting radiated fish? And thanks for having Kevin Camps on, Tom.
Sure.
But also, in Tuesday's USA Today, how many people in the United States know that the banks we bailed out are now dishing out juicy dividends, according to the headlines? 6.1 billion. 7.8 billion, 3.1 billion. They're buying their stock back and they're paying dividends. What happened to the people who lost their homes, Senator Sanders? Do they get any of this? Do we, the people, own a share in these banks? Will we get a share of Goldman Sachs when we bail them out? Help.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take your answer offline.
Thank you, Norma.
Okay. Well, thank you, Norma, and thank you, A, for getting on the phone and calling up your representatives and doing what millions of people should be doing, and that's being heavily involved in the political process. If we had millions more doing what Norma is doing, this country would be a different place. And the answer to Norma's question is, by and large, no, of course not. We did bail out these large Wall Street firms, and the result of that is that now most of them, not all of them, are larger than they used to be. And the result of that is that, in fact, they are paying their CEOs, giving their CEOs and top executives huge bonuses. And the result of all of that is that Wall Street is still not providing the kind of assistance in affordable loans that small businesses need. And the result of that is that Wall Street is still charging interest rates and credit cards and mortgages, which is much higher than they should be. And my conclusion, and I said this a million times, I don't think you could regulate Wall Street anymore. I think they're too big. Not only are they too big to fail, but I think they're too big to regulate. And I think we have to break up these large financial institutions.
Senator Bernie Sanders with us, taking your calls. The tail end of our third hour Brunch with Bernie today here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be back with more of your calls for the Senator right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And be sure to check out sanders.senate.gov. It's Bernie's official website. It's a great news source. You can sign up for his newsletter there. You can hop over to Facebook. And welcome back. Cliff in Claremore, Oklahoma. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, Senator Sanders, I just want to say I'm glad to talk to you, and I'm glad to talk to Thom Hartmann as well. There's too much of the situation about Hillary being reported, and I think that that's, in a way, what they're trying to, the Republicans are trying to do is trying to get back at Bill by using Hillary as a pawn. And just because she's a woman that instead of just being a first lady, she's obtained a position of power where she's able to show that she can be presidential material. And what they're trying to do, it seems like, is they're trying to discredit her. By the time 2016 rolls around, then they want to discredit her even more. What's your take on that?
Well, I tell you, I think that's partially true, Cliff. I think it goes beyond that. I think that they will go after Republican candidates in the same way, and they will make it personal. So we will learn that Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush or anybody else are not perfect human beings. Or Bernie Sanders is not a perfect human being. Not a whole lot of news there. But what they will not do is ask the more important questions. What does Hillary Clinton, what does Jeb Bush believe about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement? How do they feel about trade? What are they going to do about Wall Street? Do they believe that every American is entitled to health care as a right? What are they going to do about income and wealth inequality? How are they going to address the crisis of climate change? In other words, what they will do is kind of make, and a earlier caller made this point, it's entertainment. It's Kim Kardashian. Well, what is Kim wearing today, or is she not wearing today? Who's she going out with? What is Jeb Bush doing today? Rather than make it about the American people. Who cares about Kim Kardashian? What we need to know is, how do we create millions of jobs? How do we reverse the decline of the American middle class? How do we deal with the crisis of climate change? So we assume that Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and Jeb Bush are not perfect human beings. Fine. We don't have to waste time on that. Let's make that concession. But what ideas do they have? What are they going to do to change America? Try to, create a more peaceful world. Those are the issues that we have to be focused on. And I think one of the problems is, frankly, those requires a little bit of work on the part of the media. What about trade policy? We got to know something about trade policy. What about economic policy? Got to know something about that. And it's just easy to be attacking people. I often make this point, and let me make it again. I'm not going to tell you that I'm a good friend of George W. Bush. I am not. When you're a senator or a congressman, you get to meet the president every now and then. And my dealings with him, personal interaction with him, this guy he's a decent guy. Great sense of humor. His wife, Laura, I thought was a very, very good first lady. I think he's a nice guy. But I think because of the disastrous policies that he had in terms of Iraq and Afghanistan, in terms of Wall Street, many, many other areas, taxes, he was a disastrous president, a very bad president. Not because he's a bad guy, but because his policies were bad. And what we as a nation have got to do is look beyond personality and discuss and force discussion on the important issues facing America.
Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls here on our third hour, Brunch with Bernie, on this Friday the 13th. We'll be back with more of your calls for the Senator right after this. Before the hour, Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. The last 10 minutes of the show, the last 10 minutes of the hour. Mark in Ocala, Florida. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
And I'm on the air with Thom Hartmann too. Senator Sanders, I thank you for your true acts of patriotism. I'm an 11-year veteran of the Marine Corps. I protested the Iraq War. Senator Sanders, you opened the show talking about how the politics is actually being driven by Washington, D.C. and the acts that primarily the corporate control right is pushing. So, I'm just a union carpenter, so I'm bright enough to figure that out. And people like Thom Hartmann and yourself are Americans that help keep us all on the right track. I would ask the senator if he could address, please, the high-speed rail and also the chance of the infrastructure bank for the United States, and what are his thoughts on making that more of a real thing for Americans and union workers work? Yes,
thanks a lot for those excellent questions. I introduced the most, comprehensive and sweeping piece of infrastructure legislation along with Senator Barbara Mikulski of Maryland last month. And Mark, what it would do is over a 5-year period spend $1 trillion to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. And that certainly includes not only roads and bridges and airports and water systems and wastewater plants and dams and levees, but it also includes rail. We spend, as a percentage of our GDP, about half of what Europe spends, and even a smaller percentage compared to China, in maintaining and building infrastructure. I happen to think that our rail system needs enormous improvement, and I strongly support high-speed rail. And when you do that, you not only make our country, think for a moment what our country looks like. when you have high-speed rail, when you have state-of-the-art water systems and wastewater plants, when we are weatherizing homes and buildings all over this country. It makes us more efficient, more cost-effective, safer, but it also creates millions and millions of jobs. And what the economists will tell you, the fastest way to create jobs in America is to rebuild our infrastructure. And that is why I introduced that legislation, which would create and maintain some 13 million jobs. So thanks very much for the question, Mark.
Dave in Madison, Wisconsin. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, good afternoon. It's an honor to talk to both of you.
Thank you.
My question is, since Wisconsin has become the latest right-to-work state and by law required to represent non-members, is there a way that the unions could bill for their time that it takes to represent these people?
It seems, well, first of all, what's happening in Wisconsin and the attack on workers there and right to work in Wisconsin, Michigan, and elsewhere is a disaster. The goal is clearly to break the ability of working people to stand together, to fight for decent wages, and to be involved in the political process. So I think any and all ways, Dave, that we can maintain unions, strong unions against this type of opposition should be looked at. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know the legalities of that. But in any and every way, we have got to fight against this right to work, because corporate America and the Scott Walkers of the world understand that the strongest opposition, that political opposition that they face in this country, comes from an organized working class, which is represented by trade unions. So if you break that, you break their political opposition, and they just can march right to the goal line and do virtually anything that they want. So thanks for your question, Dave, but it's an issue that I think should be looked at.
Denise in Chicago, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for the honor again to speak with you, Bernie and Tom. You're so on point when you talk about the news that is being presented to us. Just on some of the liberal stations, I won't mention any one individual, but it seems like they are making the mistake that the candidates did in 2014 and try to encompass the right and get them to watch, to focus on Hillary for 45 minutes instead of talking about what really needs to be talked about. The other point I wanted to make, and then I'll let you answer, but you hit it on when Senator Bernie, when you talked about the Kardashians. I was with my family this weekend going to a hockey game, and several of my nieces and nephews are in their early 20s, and they were more interested in Bruce Jenner changing into a woman than they were about Selma. And I guess that means that when they turn on the TV, they're so sick of it, and they don't even want to listen to it because they know it's all baloney. It's their words, not mine. So it's really an incredible dichotomy that's happening, and seeing other sources I am doing because I see changes, but they have not, I guess, been affected enough. And so many assumptions that our freedoms are still there that I see are being, slowly deteriorating.
Denise, we just have a minute left. Let's let Bernie in here.
Denise is right to talk about young people's attitude toward politics. At some point, Tom, we may want to do a whole show on that and just get young people to call in, because I sense, and this is not an accident, Denise, the media does, in the last election, 80% of young people, 21 or younger, did not vote. 80% did not vote. And I think a lot of them have no sense what democracy is about. What they see in Washington is they perceive to be irrelevant to their lives. And how we bring them into the political process to make them understand that the cost of college and student debt is an issue that can be addressed if they are actively involved, that climate change or women's rights are issues that can be addressed. These are issues that they care about, but they no longer see the relationship between what's happening in the political process and these important issues. And that's not an accident as well. Corporate media and the people who own America would much prefer them talking about Bruce Jenner or Kim Kardashian than about the important issues that face this country.
Senator Sanders, thanks so much for being with us again today.
My pleasure, Tom.
Great talking.